And so the Roman Imperial said to the early Christian, we might have the Pontifex Maximus here, but that's a bridge, get it, too fucking far. If you don't get it, I'm not surprised. You really have to know Latin to really get that joke. But if you are a classics major, you will be chuckling to yourself right now. Anyway, just stay tuned for Alchemy and check out our new theme song. I love it! Hello, everybody! Don't you love this? This is our new theme song. Dun dun, da da da, wah 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 wah, da 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 da, ba da ba 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 ba. Oh, don't you love it? It's called "You're My Love." Wow! Oh, I love it. It's so great, isn't it? Well, hi everybody. Welcome to Alchemy. This is our. Oh, it's got a cute little This is a great song. I love this. I love this music. We're gonna keep this music, I think. And we're experimenting with new theme songs. But that is our welcome to Alchemy. So this is it's our new theme song called "You're My Love." YOU_RE, my love. I love it. I instituted it today as a personal choice for it's a dedication. Someone out there will understand what it means. And also, happy First Contact Day! If you're a Star Trek fan, today in Star Trek lore history is First Contact Day in the year 2063. Zephyr Cochrane makes first contact with the Vulcans, and Captain Picard saves humanity from the Borg in this century. And it's all kind of crazy cool. Yeah, happy First Contact Day if you're a Star Trek Federation citizen or Trekkie of any kind, human in that era of the lore of that universe and alternate reality and what have you. Happy First Contact Day. We celebrate First Contact Day here in the Alchemy Podcast. My name is Casey, and here we are. So, this is going to be a weird episode. When I think of Christianity, and Judeo-Christianity, I mean, and to a lesser extent, I don't want to say the other Abrahamic religion because I'm going to get letters, because they're they're more than even Christians and Jews who can get offended, but they take it very well most of the time. At least the Jews do. Just ask Jon Stewart. He rolls with it, but but there's another third branch of that family that which I'm not going to say because I don't want to get letters, but not that I don't respect them. I respect them greatly. But if you are religiously sensitive, this episode may not be for you because I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant about what I don't like about some things. And I don't like to start so negative, but I just need to say this because it just needs to be said. That being said, or unsaid as of this point, but check back in about 5 minutes. The Abrahamic religions. Let's just put it all under that umbrella, right? I don't mean the God of Abraham, who is real. I don't mean Christ directly, who is wonderful and real, and the Holy Ghost, who's also real and wonderful. I don't mean King Solomon, who is real, wonderful, and cool. He's cool enough, part of the crew. He's like, in my imagination, he's like the McLovin of the group, right? King Solomon's like, I'm McLovin. I'm included. Yes, you are. You're included. You're cool enough, McLovin. All right, come on. And I don't mean the three wise men, whom I love and I just adore. They're wonderful. But the rest of it, I gotta say, it conjures to mind the early images of this, insofar as the Bible bits that I've read. When I've read the Bible, don't get me wrong, I've actually read the whole thing, but like the Bible bits that I've read that are directly relevant to what I'm talking about. I had this constant image in my head, maybe inspired by the art of the nativity at Bethlehem and stuff like that. but or not Bethlehem. Was it Bethlehem? Yeah, it was Bethlehem. He was born in Bethlehem. He's from Nazareth, but he's born in Bethlehem. Just like I'm from, the northeastern Pennsylvania region. Actually, that's all included. So it's like, just like I'm from, Seattle, but I was born in Kingston, Pennsylvania. Actually, I want to say my hometown. Just like I'm from Seattle, but I was born in Pennsylvania, right? So anyway, and I'm English, so go figure. But in addition to having like a donkey and a piece of bread on like a plain wooden table in my imagination when I think of these things, it's like it's constant backdrop with like a dirt floor and, a sheep somewhere in the background going, meh, and in addition to being like the primary factor introducing the world, if not the primary factor, then at least like, I don't know what to call it. A related factor, introducing the world to the technique of passive aggression. Thanks for that, guys. And being woke and wokeism before there was even a woke or wokeism to be had. Early Christianity, not Christ, again, who was a Jew, but early Christianity, the fan club, and the taking over of Rome. I don't know how this foreign cult from the Middle East had such a grip on the Romans. Because the Greco-Roman religion is so awesome. It just is. Well, I can tell you, just like Archer would tell you, like in the meme. Do you want to get flies in your kitchen? Because that's how you get flies in your kitchen. That's how you get flies. Do you want to get ghosts? Well, we have ghosts here. Let's use another example. Do you want to get demons? Because that's how you get demons, Well, I mean, let's not even go that route with this episode, but it starts small. Do you want to get Christianity? Well, do you? I'm not going to be proselytizing it to you, but that's how you get Christianity is I'm referring to the Christianity of early Rome, which is nothing like the Christianity of at least most of today. Like the Church of England, which is wonderful. The Anglican Church of Canada is wonderful. Episcopal Church of the United States, wonderful. Most Catholic churches, wonderful. Pope Francis, wonderful. But I'm talking about the early Christians. Not Christ, but his fan club. His direct fan club, including the founding members. Right? That's the crew I'm referring to. And then their fan club in Rome, like in the first couple of 100 years after the ascension, death, resurrection, and ascension of Christ. I say ascension first, but starts with A because I love A. I really do. Anyway, hint, hint about the theme song. I love the theme song. Anyway. I don't know how they had such a grip on the Romans. Well, it starts small. The Romans had a welcome all policy, really, when it came to gods. There was a relativism and a synchronism that they had if you called Jupiter Marduk, if you're from, I think it was Assyria, Babylon? Same region. That's cool. They had no problem welcoming you into the state. They would just, like, when the Romans would take over your town, they would say, how they would deal with religion and religious differences is this. It was ingenious and it was brilliant, actually. It really is true. And it's true theologically as well. In actuality, in our very real world, it is true. Their relativism is theologically accurate and correct. Insofar as they would go into, like, say, Babylon or Syria. Not Syria. Assyria. Slight difference. And they would recognize your thunder god and say, you have a thunder god. You call this thunder god Marduk. Well, we have thunder god. Over here, our thunder god. Our thunder god is named Jupiter. Clearly, this is the same deity. You just say potato, we say potato, you say potato, or vice versa. We say tomato, you say tomato, but we're talking about the same thing. So, they take over your town, they put up a new sign. Next week, welcome to the new Reformed Temple. of Jupiter Marduk. And they hyphenate it, just like gay people do when we get married. Anyway, that's cool. They had no problem welcoming you into the state, because that was part of the extended empire, right? But we're talking Rome proper now. If you were welcomed into the state, like the Roman state in the empire, that was one thing, but we're talking about the city of Rome and the Roman Empire immediate right now. The Roman Empire proper, right? Rome, the city proper. Not like, if I was talking about Seattle, I'm not talking about King County. I'm not talking about Bothell. I'm not talking about Bellevue. But I'm talking about, it's not all bad in Bellevue. I'm talking about Seattle proper. Like, if you have a ballot in your inbox, in your whatever it is, I don't vote, another episode, another time. But if you have a ballot that says, who do you vote for the mayor of the city of Seattle, then you are whom I'm talking about and you live within those city limits. But we're doing this for Rome. Rome proper, just to make sure we're being specific, because believe me in history, these things are important. So, I am wondering why Facebook is telling me things I don't care about. And so the Romans had this welcome all policy when it came to gods. They had no problem welcoming you into the state. You just weren't going to be the state religion. Period. Just like England does today, There's a state religion in England, the Church of England. It is right and proper and just and true and great, and it's all good things. Actually, no, I'm sorry. Correction, it's all great things. It is all great things. You're not going to change the state religion, though. The state religion stays, and it stays as it is. Now, what they would usually do is exactly as I said. They would set up the temple of Jupiter Marduk in Assyria, right? But in Rome proper, it's the temple of Jupiter, not the temple of Jupiter Marduk in Rome proper. That's an important distinction. It's just that you are considered part of the family because if you're from, say, Syria, you're worshiping Marduk. I think it's Babylon, actually. Whichever, you're worshiping Marduk, right? You go on a vacation with your family to Rome to see the capital city of your empire that, you're part of. And you want to go to, services throughout the week and go to a religious event because you're religious, right? You worship Jupiter Marduk. You know him as Marduk originally. You go into the temple of Jupiter. You have a communion there. That's valid. Because you're worshiping the same god that you call Marduk. But it's just that in your empire, which runs the government, they call him by a different name, but it's the same god you're worshiping. The rites are valid, right? Your religion is, like, you could do that. Kind of like how the some churches will have communion with one another that, like, there's no conflict, it's all you're part of the family. You're like a cousin, you're part of the family. And you're worshiping the same God but different names. And so I'll have my notes here. Now, what the Christians wanted, on the other hand, was at first to be welcomed into the state. Fine, no problem. Rome had a very easygoing way with religions. In fact, Isis, the goddess of Egypt, she had temples in Egypt, or in Egypt, in Rome. Mithras had temples, particularly amongst the Roman soldiers and centurions, and the legions of Rome. Also extending into Britain, too. But Christianity wanted a little bit more. They wanted to take liberties. And Rome was like, no, that's not what we do here, sorry. We're cool, but, we're not going to let you walk all over us. That's just not fucking happening. And they're like, oh, really? Okay, that's fine. And when your boyfriend says that's fine, it's not. It's never fine. My boyfriend says fine when he says you're fine, or my boyfriend, when he says you're fine, he'll say, really meaning you're not fine. Something here is radically, dramatically, horrifyingly pissing me off or upsetting me, and you need to fix it right now because this is fine. He means fine like fence. Like, that's the line. Like, nope, I've had enough. You gotta fix this now, because I'm gonna be pissed, and then I'll be sleeping on the couch. That being said, by the way, everybody, just throwing this out there, a wise man once said to me, actually a very sagey-magey man once said to me, or magey-sagey rather, the wise man always fears only God Almighty himself and the wrath of his boyfriend. And he is not wrong. That's the wise man. The wise man only fears those two things. Never another man, never a spider anywhere. There's no demon so fearsome. There isn't any demon so fearsome that he could ever intimidate him. But the wrath and the fear of the wrath of his spouse will. That's the wise man who does fear that. God and the wrath of his spouse. Fear only those two things. I do. And so, they were so, the early Christians, I mean, they were kind of weird, kind of nice at first, trying to, the killing you with kindness technique, right? But then they got a little cold, and they got a little cultsy. But hey, they're a minority religion, it's gonna fizzle out, right? Well, no, it doesn't fizzle out. And the more loud and woke they got, and I mean woke is in the modern sense, the more that they would instigate fights, right? Provoke these fights directly, passively, pacifistically, but passively, passive aggression. And their passive aggression would get them punched in the face. The fight would start. They would go, "Ow! Look what they're doing to me! Oh, what they mean? We don't deserve this. No." I know one person in life who does that. No, I loathe that guy. Because he does that. "Isn't it bad that they're making me be here all sad? Oh, don't you wish you'd just come over and convert to my religion? Or yeah, those mean old religion Romish people." That's what he sounds. The guy I know in real life. That's why when I do his voice and I like mock him. I don't want to say I mock him. I don't mock him, but like when I have to describe him to someone else of how horrible he is, I use that voice. It's like, "Yeah, don't you wish you could come over and convert to my religion?" That's what the early Christians were like. Passive aggressive. They would instigate these fights. And so when the Romans were like, "Oh my God, shut the fuck up," right? As any sane person would do, I would think, back in the day. And you have to understand that this is not like, a pleasant social conversation we're talking about. I'm talking about they're staging protests, essentially, passively. Like they're going and they're like going, "Oh, excuse me, my butt just like knocked over your, altar to Venus. Sorry, and oops, pardon me, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be so rude as to knock over this, this shrine over here, and I broke the statue. Oh no. And they just keep doing this over and over again. And en masse, right? So the Romans are like, "Hey, don't touch the statues. If you do it again, I'm punching in the face." "Oh, it was an accident. I don't know what you're talking about." Bumps. "Oops, how did I do that?" Bam, punched in the face. "Oh, look up at Rome. Look at me. Look at this. Ow, ow. Isn't it horrible, those mean old Romans? Look what they made me. Look what they're doing to me. I was just an accident. Oh, I'm so nice. Don't you wish you want to convert to my religion? We're all about love." You weasel bitch. That's every Christian martyr in the early years. Sorry, but they're all weasel bitches. So sorry, guys. But they're weasel bitches. You weren't martyred for anything. You got the shit beat out of you for, like, justifiably good reasons. In fact, I would even call it a public good, some of them. Sorry, Valentine, looking in your direction. But anyways, I'm going to get letters and calls from the government at this point. Perhaps several. But you have these woke Christians who are, in fact, instigating fights. Then they call the people that get killed in those fights martyrs for their cause. That's a bullshit attempt at sympathy. It's preying on victims. And so they sort of trick Rome and Romans who are, taking sympathy with them into seeing their own religious state and their own gods and everything like shat on, and seeing that as not necessarily good thing in and of itself, but they're like, hey, you don't have to push the Christians around. And they started to get sympathy for Christianity. Because they would never notice the things that were instigating the fights. They would only ever see it when they're going, hell, no, isn't it awful that we have to be here for these guys? We're just being so mean. Don't you wish you can convert to us? Here, we're all about love. You fucking weasels. And so, and they're not about love. Anything but. So anyway, Christ is about love. Early Christians, not about love. It was a bullshit attempt at sympathy. And so they tricked Rome into making them the victim. Just like woke people do today. Like, sorry, Black Lives Matter, looking in your direction. They were, except not so much, I'm going to edit that part out, but not so much because they were so offended, but they were so offended, They cried foul every time. And so Rome, being a place that welcomes all, said, okay, well, let's let you into the state, in the lineup of sanctioned foreign gods from extended empire. We conquered you, so yeah, I guess so. Sure, why not? Just don't be assholes about it, right? Oh, okay, we promise we won't be assholes. Okay, cool. Rome had a number of gods from foreign areas. Had people who are from these foreign areas and extended parts of the empire and stuff they would worship, and they had temples in Rome, and it was cool. They were not official Roman state gods, but they had leasing temple space in Rome, essentially. They could build their temples there. They can't be as big as the other ones, but they can have a shrine. They can have they can have a small little shed, basically, but without having as opposed to the huge mega space that was the Temple of Optimus Maximus Jupiter Optimus Maximus, right? Which is, by the way, several Super Bowl sized football fields. It's huge. And then they made it bigger. Wow, so beautiful. Anyway, they could build their temples without it being a problem. They could gather, they could worship without it being an issue, even though the Roman state religion was something different. Christians, however, were all about this at first. I said that's what they wanted. But the dictates of their religion said that they had to conquer the other ones. And so they then demanded special fucking rules just for them. Because they're special little fucking snowflakes, right? They got the special rules in place, almost like an affirmative action. Then they wanted Christianity to be not just part of the Roman pantheon, which Romans are that's no, we're not doing that. No, that's nice. It's not. Isn't it wonderful to dream? So I would say it's nice to dream, isn't it? But then they wanted something more than that. Not only do they want that, they wanted to be the official religion of ancient Rome, which was, oh, it's really nice to dream, but I think you're dreaming too much. And on top of all that, those two, they also wanted no other religions but theirs. They wanted it to be to the exclusion of the present Roman state religion, which was not Christianity at the time. And we're thinking present as in we're back then, right? And that's when even the most liberally minded Roman was probably like, okay, guys, you got to slow the fuck down. And that's when they started to get uppity, the Christians. And you know what I mean by uppity. Yes, I mean that interpretation of uppity. Let's be honest here. You know the negative connotation of uppity, right? How some people use it for black people and stuff when they're racists. Well, I'm actually going to use that word in that very context. Don't write me letters, I won't read them. That's the context I am absolutely using this in. Because the early Christians got fucking uppity. They got really uppity. And so being uppity, and that put them in direct, intentionally directed conflict with the Roman state. Which were like, the fuck you're gonna be doing that, right? So battles ensued. And the Christians called it persecution. That's not persecution. You're starting fights, you dumb shits. Even though they weren't dumb shits, because they knew exactly what they were doing. They were instigating these fucking fights. That's not persecution. What that really should be is sit the fuck down, honey, and follow the fucking rules. Honey, we're not persecuting you here. Stop trying to make us persecute you by starting fights that we have to respond to and then calling fucking foul whenever we do. Getting sympathy every time. Passive fucking aggression is trickery. And then comes fucking Constantine, the first Christian emperor of Rome. The throne had to fall to that guy. Fucking Saint Ambrose. Fucking Ambrose. I'm actually gonna demote him just a little bit and say just Ambrose, because he was really douchey. So just for this discussion, he gets the demotion. Fucking Ambrose and fucking Constantine. Next emperor in the line of succession is a Christian, and then. And then all went to fuck. The religion of the emperor is the religion of the state. Now, in modern day England, it's still there. In its entirely intact in its entirety. But there has been a law in England for a couple hundred years, and it's not an unfair law, which says that you cannot be King of England as well as a Catholic at the same time. You must, if you're going to be King of England, be Church of England. And you have to swear never to be a Catholic. Now, you might think that's, not fair, but it is fair. That law is just. Not only is that law just, it is right. I would go to my grave defending that law. And my mom's Catholic, I was, in a half-Catholic family. But I would go to my grave defending that law that says no Catholic could ever be King of England, and there must be King of England. I would die upon that hill in the defense of that. I would give my blood and shed it to protect the English throne from a Catholic. Today. Right now, if you ask me to. Absolutely, I would. Because I know history and I know what happens when you institute democracies, when you get rid of monarchies, and when you put a Catholic on an English throne. That's never good. And so we've seen this at least twice before. It never ends good, no matter how enlightened those ages, and no matter how enlightened you think you are today, everybody, you're not any more enlightened than they were. Trust me. Because they thought they were pretty enlightened too. They were the pinnacle. They were the present. They were the cutting edge of their modern day. And they said, oh, yeah, that was a couple hundred years ago. But that doesn't happen now. Then it happens now. After Bloody Mary, they're like, we're going to put this law in here. Then James II was going to be a Catholic. He was there for a hot minute. And then he started the same shit Mary started. And they're like, okay, nope. Glorious Revolution happens. And then his sister, or I forget what was Queen Mary, or his daughter, the other daughter who was the Protestant, then she gets in there. So there's no real interruption in the line of succession. Still a daughter of the king, the same king. But in the Roman equivalency of this scenario, that says, in England, you must be an Anglican to be King of England, and there must be a King of England. You cannot not have a King of England. And you must swear to these principles of the, Church of England. You must swear that that is true, that these are true, and they are true. And you must swear to do this, and you should. All right? That's what the Romans should have done for Constantine. They should have driven Constantine out like a glorious revolution. Because after Elagabalus, who I cannot equate to Bloody Mary. He wasn't like a persecutorial emperor. He was a little bit busy as an emperor, but he was doing other things. Look him up. Anyway, he's an emperor. The throne fell to him. He's from Syria. And he's next in line. He's 18 years old. And without sounding creepy, a great-looking young man. But he has this religion of this Syrian god Elagabalus, a sun god. And so he replaces Jupiter with Elagabalus as the god of the Roman state. He puts him on all the money. He's on his face on the one side of the money. On the back, on the flip side of the coin, is the deity. That's how it usually. Actually, no, I'm sorry. That's how it always is, right? And so he makes all the Roman senators go to these Elagabalus rites, which are kind of crazy in comparison. So after he dies, Rome quickly reinstates Jupiter. Rome says, we're so sorry, Jupiter, please don't rain down thunder and lightning on us. And he does not. Jupiter is very gracious to us. Though it's very fun. Look, it's interesting here. Though he did. Jupiter, I mean, the actual proper Jupiter himself. Jupiter caelestris species, right? Or species caelestris. Jupiter, really actually Jupiter himself in the heavens, and the divine Jupiter who is real and everything. I mean, him. Actual intelligent entity Jupiter did. When Elagabalus was emperor, apparently that really pissed Jupiter off because lightning strikes, particularly lightning strikes against the imperial palace, were a frequent occasion for about a 5-year span. Like, all the time. So much so that they even put rules in place up temporarily for people that worked at the palace to how to avoid the lightning strikes and when you can enter and leave the palace when it's safer to do so. And that 5-year span coincides with that emperor's reign. After that emperor falls down, Jupiter gets reinstated, suddenly lightning strikes decrease and go back to normal. Fun fact for you, that's a true fucking statement. And a true fucking story. But yeah, after Elagabalus institutes this foreign cult from the Middle East, which is your first fucking red flag. If it's this foreign cult from the Middle East, like Christianity, like Judaism, no offense Judaism, like, no offense Christianity, no offense the other one, I don't want to say your name because I could get a terrorist attack, like blowing up my building for offending you. But you know who you are, no offense to you either, but sorry, when you have an import Middle Eastern religion, avoid it. For the most part, avoid it. It's my advice, really. There should have been a law in place, though, just like England has. It says if you're going to be the Roman emperor, then you must protect the Roman state religion. You must vow to protect it. You cannot be the emperor of Rome unless you're part of this religion. And I completely 100,000% endorse that. For England, I endorse that. For Rome, I endorse that. For Cascadia. Absolutely. I don't believe in religious persecution, religious tolerance, and religious, protections. I believe in religious freedom, but I do believe in a state religion because I've seen what happens when you don't have one. I've seen what happens when you do have one, and I've also seen it being run very well and being run very poorly. Always better to have a state religion than not. Always better to protect religious freedom as a tenet of that state religion in that state all the time, and die defending the religious, integrity and freedom of a minority religion. Die defending it if you must, but protect it always. That is how I believe things should be run. I could not endorse that system any fucking more without extending into hyperbolic orgasm. When in Rome, do as the Romans do is a phrase that comes from that crazy Twinkie gay emperor that they had for 5 years who instituted a foreign cult as the state religion. Or really, also tried to institute Sol Invictus, it was Aurelian. He tried to institute Sol Invictus, but Sol Invictus, he was already part of the Roman pantheon. He's Helios. He was there before, though. He was at least Greco-Roman. He's one of the family already. He's the cousin/uncle of Zeus Jupiter. He's one of our own, right? He's not this foreign Middle Eastern import. He's not a foreigner. Foreigners. They hate us for our freedom. Anyway. But they should have had that fucking law. And then Constantine would not have fucking happened. Unfortunately, Constantine did happen, and then it all went fucking downhill from there. First, the Christians got their special snowflake status. Then they got their wish when the Roman emperor was a Christian to make that the Roman state religion, because then by default it did. And then the Roman state religion, which was let's call it Jupiterianism, for lack of a better term right now. And then Jupiterianism was bumped to equal status. Which you might think if you're in America, oh, isn't that the way things should be? No, absolutely not. It's not the way things should be. Because suddenly, then there's special rules, almost like an affirmative action, kind of, but like in ancient Rome, for black, at least affirmative action is for like lack of a better term. And by the way, woke people, I'm only using it for lack of a better term. Don't bring your racist bullshit, modern nonsense in America and all that nonsensory Black Lives Mattering bullshit into this discussion, because you are not ancient Roman. Neither are any of your causes that you care about. Don't make it about you. This is not about you because you're not ancient Roman. I won't read your emails. Period. So the early Christians used their affirmative action essentially, and their special fucking snowflake rules, and they took liberties with them. Because of course they did. They have a religion that says they have to conquer all the other ones or get payback. Right? And so they use their special rules so that when they were then made the state religion by default of Constantine, they made the state religion of Jupiterianism or Jupiterianism, the state religion, into a second-class religion to theirs, secondary to theirs. And then their religion says that they have to take over everything. So, and it starts with the first Christian emperor, who then gives them their special status on the advice of Ambrose, who I'm not calling a saint for this episode, starts plundering all the state temples to benefit Christian priests. And the reverse was never true. And then started with the defunding of all the temples except for the Vestal Virgins, the ones who are the keepers of the flames of Vesta and stuff like that, the goddess Vesta. They were the last to be. They were actually they were just defunded by the state, and then they were completely state funded. Because, and by the way, I don't mean state funded like all they cared about was money, which is one of the big things that, I think Constantine, one of them, who cares? They're early Christians. I didn't really get their names to memory which one was which, but I know that they said, they call them pagans. Pagan is a word that means the other, he who is excluded and not invited, that guy. Pagan is the Roman word for the modern equivalent of that guy, right? In the plural. So they said, the pagans only care about money. Well, no, it's just that the state is benefiting from the gods and their beneficence, so the state must make the contribution to the temples. Because you're trying to benefit the state. It's not a matter of caring about money and funding. It's a matter of the priests really did give a fuck, because they would argue politics and economics because the gods cared about that. And they do care about that. If you are tithing, essentially, if you want to use a modern Mormon term, and I'm not Mormon, they are the nicest people, though. I think they're, no offense, but I think Mormons are crazy. But they're the nicest, wonderful people. Like, they're the really good people. God bless every one of them. And the gods, too. But, Jupiter bless all of you, please. Y'all are crazy, but you're all doing really good work, though. Good work. Pat in the head and, high five. But the Vestal Virgins would eventually become the essential, at least once removed, grandmothers of what you would call the Catholic nuns today. And then, after that, it became illegal to worship other gods. Which, I should have told you guys. Didn't you read their book? Weren't you warned about this? We're just so nice at first, turns into, now you will worship us, you will convert or die, because then it became forbidden to worship other gods, then it started the persecution of anybody who wouldn't convert over to Christianity, then started the hunting of them down. Roman pagans are what I mean when I mean the state religion. And I don't use pagan because it's a slur that the early Christians came up with to call the people who were once the dominant religion in Rome, who built Rome, who built the soapbox that they used to get up and decry them. Pagan means the other, he who is excluded from the banquet, he who doesn't get an invitation, the unwanted, the undesirable. That's what pagan means, so I don't use the word pagan. I use the proper fucking terminology, the Roman state religion. Yeah, so I know this rant is ridiculous and crazy. I'm just saying that Rome should have had that law in the books that says you've got to worship Jupiter and the family divine that Jupiter has if you're going to be emperor of Rome. And they should have kicked Constantine's fat fucking ass back to the fucking Sunday school catechism teacher's lounge class where he fucking belonged. We're going to take a break and stay tuned for more alchemy. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Oh, the song just keeps getting better. You're my love. Don't you love it, eh? You're my love. All right, welcome back to Alchemy. So we are talking about ancient Rome, as we were wont to do. And so, the moral of the story. I'm a Christian. I think Christ is great. That makes me a Christian, among other things which make me a Christian. However, the apostles, the rest of them, I don't give a fuck about. Sorry. I care about God in the Old Testament and the New. But no one who's doing anything in the name of God in those Old Testaments, just not even Moses, really. No offense, Moses. You're great and all, but he's still in the periphery. I care about capital G God in the Old Testament, New Testament. I care about King Solomon to a lesser extent. He's like the McLovin of the group, right? I am McLovin. I know that. I don't want to say that word on my show, though. Fagele. Because his name was Fogel. So he's like, I know that. I know that. You know, everyone sees Superbad? No? Okay, never mind. I just want to say FAG on my show. That's one word we're never going to use. Except in the British context. But, you know, Solomon, he's part of the crew. Christ and the Holy Spirit, of course, part of the Holy Trinity with God. Insert, you know, the Nicene thing there. I don't want to say creed. But, I just don't care about the rest of them. Sorry, no. They're the only ones I really give a fuck about. And the three wise men. In the gospel of one of the ones that got, like, something right, because a broken clock is right twice a day. Matthew, I think it was. Solomon, to a lesser extent, I also care about. Christ I care about, but who the fuck do we have here? I don't fucking even know. We got Paul. Paul can go fuck himself. We got Mark, we got John, especially John. They can both go fuck themselves and fuck right off. We got Luke, he can fuck off. The rest of them can go fuck off. I don't give a fuck about the rest of them. The rest of them are fucking assholes. They're total douchebags, total twats. I've really got to say, twat baggery everywhere. And so the moral of the story is this. Apart from the examples of Solomon and Christ under God himself, primary and antecedents, and above both of them, in addition to the Holy Ghost, putting them in their special category, as we must, and putting that category aside over here for a moment, having first acknowledged it, following the first commandment to the letter, the rest of them are as appealing as dishwater to me, as is the rest of that religion. If it weren't for God himself, Christ himself, the Holy Ghost himself, the Holy Ghost, and King Solomon to a lesser extent because he's McLovin, he's part of the crew. Putting that all aside again for a moment, Christianity and any Middle Eastern imported religion is as dull to me as fucking dishwater. I'm sorry, it just fucking is. In my imagination, it conjures images of a fucking donkey and a piece of fucking bread, but like not good bread, but like shitty bread, on a piece of fucking wood table, lit by a fucking candle, with a fucking dirt floor, sitting on like a wooden bench, with your like swarthy looking family, dressed all swarthily. You know, the mom and the daughter have their second status, and you got a fucking, I don't know, a sheep or a goat in there going, meh, for reasons I don't fully fucking understand, but that's what it says in my imagination, with a dirt fucking floor that you sweep for no fucking reason, because why would you do that? Your whole floor, you have a dirt floor. It's like a kid's, like, you know, like a play school plastic, like, little kid house that you might have in the backyard with the dirt floor on it, right? Because, you know, it's like from play school made of plastics or little tykes or whatever the fuck it is, right? You know, when we're kids, those cool things. I always wanted one of those. Anyway, when I was a kid, I always wanted a house. I never got one. I had something else. Oh, I mean, I had one made of wood. Don't get me wrong, but I wanted the little house every once in a while. I always found it was cool. I had my own little space. I'm king of my castle. Actually, I really wanted a castle. I never got one though. Really, I should get one today. Why not? But regardless, dirt fucking floor. That's what it conjures in my imagination when I think about it. People with impronounceable, not for any sort of sacredity reason, but just because they're so fucking ridiculous names, arguing about Middle Eastern culture and policy shit that, I'm sorry, I don't give a fuck about. Not one bit. Jupiter throws lightning from the motherfucking skies, bitches. Zeus defeated his father. Saturn for the throne. Castigated him. And rules Olympus with a firm but gentle hand, beneficent and wonderful, joyful yet thunderous. That's fucking cool. And real. I do believe that. But let's be clear. As how I understand the universe to work, the shit that St. Paul, who writes the book of thereof in the Bible, what he has to say, I don't give a fuck about. Honestly, I do cherry pick the Bible. Because, let's be honest here, although divinely inspired, that divine inspiration is still up to the individual person to interpret and get right. Not all the time is that interpretation exactly not contaminated with the lowest parts of his manness, especially in the case of fucking Paul and John. Not Paul and John? Not Paul and John. Especially in the case of Paul, in a different fucking category and in a different fucking way and for a different fucking reason altogether in the case of John. John can go fuck himself. And so can... I don't want to have a terrorist attack my home, but, I'm going to take a sip of my soda here. Hold on. Most visible. I didn't say anything, I promise. Anyway, so... I'm not a bigot. I'm just simply saying that I have all respect for all religions, I do. But insofar as its appeal to me, I just don't give a fuck about those bits of the religion. There is wisdom to be found there, certainly. There is something to be gained from reading these things, certainly. That something is, yes, spiritual and beyond just the context of understanding why I don't care about them, generally speaking. But acknowledging that, the sublime beauty of Christ and all that he had to teach us is what I care about. The sublime beauty of God and what he has to say, I care about. King Solomon and his powers and his wisdom, I care about. The three wise men and their powers and their wisdom, I care about. The salvation of Christ and the Holy Ghost, I care about. The Holy Ghost, I absolutely care about. An infinite amount of percent, an inexhaustible amount of caring, an abundant, an overabundant amount of caring, an infinite, an eternal amount of caring. Do I care about that? But as for what Paul said in the book of Paul, chapter 18th, verse through you can shove that verse up your ass. Especially about gay people. You can shove that verse in... No, I think it's actually the book of Romans. Yeah, you can shove that book up your ass, Paul. Now, I don't mean... And by the way, before I take another break here, I'm referring to when Paul wrote the letter about the Romans and Sodom and Gomorrah. As a gay man, that's not what that means. Period. Paul can go fuck himself. Now, not all Pauls. Some Pauls we love. We love a specific Paul in my personal life. I love Apollon, Apollodorus of Tyana. No, I'm sorry, it would be Apollodorus of Damascus, whom I really, really love. Apollonius of Tyana, whom I also love. But Paul, who wrote the book, on the Romans, in the Bible, I think it's verse 13 or some shit like that. Yeah, he can take his fucking scrawled ass pieces of shit paper and he can shove them right up his fucking ass. Paul's a dick. Paul can go fuck himself. So can John, for that matter. Now, and at the end of this episode, we're going to restore the sainthood to Ambrose. We'll refer to St. Ambrose in the future. There's a number of saints I love. Dear Anthony. Anthony. Dear Saint Anthony, dress in brown, my, whatever has been lost and must be found. I love Saint Anthony. Saint Anthony is always welcome on the show. But John the Baptist, they did cut his head off. Allegedly Saint John, and then again, which fucking one? Oh God. There's not really a John that I've ever met, apart from JFK, the president. I've never met JFK, but it's like, roll with me on this. There's not one I really know of that I've actually liked as a person, or who's actually ever been a good person, apart from like Jack Kennedy. I've never met a John who's ever been good, or a Nick for that matter. Isn't that weird? Here's a little off rant I don't have in my notes. The name John is cursed in England. Did you know that? It's absolutely cursed in England. There was only ever one King John. There will never be another. John is on the list of forbidden names for the British royal family to name their children. You are not allowed to name your son or daughter Prince John. Or Johanna, for that matter. Even though Johanna's a great name. Listen, I don't think... Actually, don't quote me on the Johanna one. I don't know that. That's only rumor. Because I've heard someone say that to me, and I haven't confirmed it. But I know John's on the list of names you're not allowed to name your children. Never. It's up there with like Pubert from like the Addams Family. You're not allowed to name your kid Pubert either. Nor John ever. It's cursed. There's only one ever King John. There will only ever be one King John. There will never be another. They had to write the Magna Carta to restrain his ass. And actually, I'm almost not really ashamed to say it, but I will say it. He's actually one of my ancestors. Well, not my ancestors. He's like an ancestral second cousin of mine. I'm related to Henry III, more directly, because I'm an Evans. We were anciently the Evanses, and so I'm related to him, and on the other not periphery, but on the side, Richard the Lionheart, Richard I. Those three are in my family tree. So I apologize on behalf of all of my family. We apologize for one of the three of them. We apologize for John. We try to keep him locked in the tower somewhere. Preferably, but we just send him up food and water every once in a while. Poke him with a stick, see if he's still alive. But no. We're gonna take a little quick break, so I'm gonna enjoy some of these chips. And you are listening to this Alchemy podcast. We are so happy you're listening. Please continue to listen. And we'll be back after these messages. I think, won't we? Yeah, we will. Possibly, maybe. Hold on. Having technical difficulty. There we go. Back after these messages.